Good morning, everyone. I'm CassB, and welcome back to my page. If you watched the last couple of videos, we have been working on a veil series. The first of which, we ran over a two-tiered veil, right? How to make one, how to cut it out, how to assemble it to a comb. I find that these veils are actually pretty easy and have a lot of different options for how you can make it new and fresh and your own. Today, we're going to be touching on one of the other most popular types of veils, the Manila veil. So I have this fabulous, crazy long, crazy voluminous overskirt that I've been working on for one of my brides, and she requested a matching lace Manila veil. So just like the last video, we're going to take our measurements first of our skirt so that we know how long and how wide we need to make our veil. We're going to lay out our extra wide, soft bridal tulle. Also, again, I still get this from Luxe Tulle, but this is a light ivory instead. And I think that you'll see that the color matching on the skirt is just perfecto. And then after we cut it out, I think Manila veils, they have a little bit of an extra step if you're going to be adding your lace to the outer edge. We're going to show you guys some tips and tricks on how to place and then ultimately sew that lace down with your sewing machine as opposed to by hand. And finally, we'll attach it to the comb and we'll finish up. So like I said, let's lay out our skirt, let's take our measurements and get started. Okay, so at this point, we officially have our veil all the way cut out. It was extra long, so I hope you guys can follow the first part. I did want to mention it's important to take note or mark in some way the center front of your veil where it's going to meet the crown of the head and then also the center back. Just so that whenever you're applying your lace, you can make sure that it's symmetrical. It's not something that you would think about until you go to do it and then it looks off and you don't know why. Usually that's because your eye wants it to be symmetrical. Unless you had some other asymmetrical design that you were purposely going for, this is gonna make sure you keep everything symmetrical and nice and straight. At this point, we're gonna come in with our lace. You can order lace by the yard as a trim. A lot of places that I've looked before are Etsy and then also, different fabric retail shops. But I like to order it as yardage because, it ends up being about the same price. And then after you cut the trim off, you've got all the yardage in the middle for any other products that you want to use it for. So we've got all of our lace cut out. Because of how long and how wide this veil is, we actually ordered 8 yards of this lace, and then we also had the lace trim on the top edge and the bottom edge that we cut off. So 8 yards, basically think of it as 16 yards. There's 3 feet in every yard, and then each foot is 12 inches. So if I'm looking at our overall veil measurements, and then the outer edge needs to be like 500 and something inches, that's kind of how you gauge how much fabric do I need, right? Got to do a little bit of math before we get started. Open it up. Okay, I've got my center front where it meets the crown already marked. I'm going to weight it down with my pins. I suggest using straight pins, or dress pins also is what they're called. And this allows it to remain affixed to the veil, but then whenever we take it to the sewing machine, it's easy for our needle to glide right over top of it. And you'll see what I mean in a moment here. So if we've got our lace trim, we're just gonna start, we're gonna place it just along that outer edge, and then we're gonna come in with our dress pins. Something to keep in mind as you're going over these sharper corners, you're gonna get little areas like this that wanna stick up. My suggestion is to pin the main sections down. And then take a pair of scissors and just cut into the part that's not laying exactly flat. So for this section, it's this little flower right here. And we're just cutting enough to where we can allow it to relax, right? You're not really going to notice a disruption in the overall pattern of the lace, the print of the lace. But this allows it to just, look at that. Look how flat that lays, and you really can't even tell that it's any different. So then you'll pin this section down and just keep going all the way around, just like I said. Okay guys, so first thing is first, don't mind my outfit change. This took a really long time, days in fact, to cut everything out, place it down with all the pins, and then ultimately sew everything down. So the sewing step is what we're going to be looking at next. Here I am at my machine. I'm going to be raising my presser foot and using invisible thread on the top and then light ivory thread on the bobbin. I find that this stitch is better this way, but if you find that using clear thread on the top and in the bobbin works well for you, that's okay. But this is what we're going to work with today. So I've got it geared up and threaded through just like you would normally with any other type of thread. I did loosen the tension a little bit, and I did that because it's plastic thread, so it wants to kind of have this elasticity to it to stretch out as you sew it if the tension is really tight, but then it kind of jerks up your garment, okay? I also will say that as we go through it, it does kind of want to jerk up onto itself a little bit. A little bit is okay. Whenever you take it to the iron afterwards, it relaxes everything, all the threads. But you want to make sure that it's not sucked up so much to where you can't press it flat afterwards. So loosening your tension is going to help with that. And if you find it's still doing it, you can also loosen your bobbin tension underneath. So that's what we've got geared up in our sewing machine. Let's take a closer look at how we're going to be raising our presser foot and directly stitching the lace down. So to begin, we're going to start by raising our presser foot. I like to keep it on because it keeps the fabric close down to the table in case the needle goes down into the lace and then wants to pull it back up. It's also a little bit safer for your fingers. So we're gonna do a pass along this top scalloped edge, and then we'll come back in after the fact and do this segment down here. I like to start with my needle in the down position. I'm also holding the clear thread, which I'm sure you can't see, but I'm holding it to get started. And then this, with the presser foot being up, just allows you to just guide right along this outer edge, right? So you're kind of keeping everything taut while you guide your needle. Okay. And you can wait till after the fact to remove your needles, or you can kind of do it as you go. Let's go ahead and remove those. And just like that, it's stitched down, right? So you can see it kind of like wants to pucker a little bit right here. The iron is going to take all of that out. So go ahead and continue along the rest of the circumference of this veil. And that's just like that, how you attach your lace without having to hand sew everything. Now we are finally at the stage where we are going to be attaching our comb. If you saw the first part in this series, I show you guys how to really make this really fabulously clean tool edge to cover the comb. It helps keep the sharper edges from piercing through your veil, like I said. So go back and rewatch that if you hadn't had a chance to see what we did to cover this. And then for the Manila veil, what I do is just kind of place it where it's going to be hidden the most, and then ultimately you can come in or have your hairstylist come in with bobby pins to actually affix it to your hair. So we're going to come in with clear thread and affix it here, and then you'll see how it all comes together. Okay everyone, and just like that, we are all finished up with our Manila veil. I hope this gave you some insight into how to take measurements, how to cut out the shapes for the veil that you want, and of course the length and width that's going to match the look that you're going for. If you have questions about this, please leave those in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time.